Ladies and gentlemen, there is something extraordinary about a woman who refuses to be defined by society's limitations. A smart woman doesn't just think differently, she lives differently. She doesn't follow the crowd because she leads it. She doesn't seek validation because she validates herself. Smart women are not driven by trends or societal expectations. They don't make decisions based on what's popular or what everyone else is doing. Instead, they evaluate, reflect, and decide based on what aligns with their values and long-term goals. This ability to pause and think critically in a world that glorifies speed is what sets them apart. They aren't afraid to say, that may work for them, but it's not for me. Leadership for smart women begins with self-leadership. Before they lead others, they lead themselves with discipline, emotional intelligence, and intentional choices. They've done the inner work to understand their own purpose, strengths, and limits. Because of this, they don't need to be told who to be or where to go. They've already designed a path that's uniquely their own. While many fear judgment, smart women fear stagnation. They refuse to shrink themselves to fit into the comfort zones of others. They embrace being different, even if it means walking alone for a season. That solitude isn't loneliness. It's a space for clarity and recalibration. It's in those quiet moments that they sharpen their vision and fuel their ambition. Smart women are often misunderstood at first. When you think differently, you will inevitably challenge the status quo. You'll ask hard questions. You'll reject conventional thinking. And that makes people uncomfortable. But smart women aren't moved by discomfort. They're driven by purpose. They trust their convictions more than the crowd's noise. Even in leadership roles, they don't demand attention, they command respect. They don't need to be loud to be heard. Their actions, consistency, and confidence speak louder than any words ever could. Smart women embody leadership by example. They inspire others by being true selves, not by mimicking what others are doing. What's powerful about these women is their resilience. The road less traveled is filled with resistance, doubt, and criticism, but they keep walking. They understand that leadership is not about being liked, it's about being true. They remain focused on their mission, not on their critics. And eventually, the same crowd that questioned them will turn to follow them. In essence, smart women aren't trying to fit in, they're building something that stands out. They break the mold, rewrite the rules, and redefine what success looks like on their own terms. They lead not because they want control, but because they have a vision that's bigger than fear. And that's why the crowd eventually follows the one who dared to walk alone. Smart women understand that the most dangerous thing they could do is base their worth on someone else's opinion. They don't rely on applause to feel valuable. Instead, they've taken the time to define their own value. And that value isn't negotiable. It doesn't rise and fall with someone's praise or disapproval. It's steady, internal, and deeply rooted in self-awareness. They know that chasing external validation is a never-ending race with no finish line. The more you seek approval from others, the more power you give away. Smart women choose to own their power. They don't need constant reassurance because they've done the inner work to affirm themselves. Their validation comes from who they are, not from what people say about them. Smart women don't pose for likes, they speak for impact. Their confidence is not tied to visibility or validation. They could be in a room full of people or alone in silence, and they would still stand tall. That's because their sense of self isn't performative, it's authentic. They're not seeking to impress, they're seeking to express. This doesn't mean they don't appreciate compliments or recognition. They do, but they don't depend on it. A smart woman can receive praise without becoming addicted to it, and she can receive criticism without being destroyed by it. Why? Because she has emotional stability. Her inner dialogue matters more than outside chatter. Smart women have learned to affirm themselves daily. They look in the mirror and speak life, not lies. They correct themselves with compassion and uplift themselves with truth. When the world goes silent and there's no one cheering them on, They keep going because they've become their own source of encouragement. They also understand the danger of people pleasing. Seeking approval often means sacrificing authenticity. Smart women would rather disappoint others than betray themselves. They are not afraid to say no, to walk away, or to stand up for themselves even when it's uncomfortable. Their peace is worth more than anyone's opinion. At the core of it all, smart women know that self-validation is freedom. It means being grounded, unshaken, and deeply secure. They don't shapeshift to fit into rooms they've outgrown. They don't bend to be liked. They rise to be respected. That begins with respecting themselves first. Smart women understand that growth and comfort do not coexist. They know that every time they step outside of their comfort zone, they're stepping into the next level of themselves. Growth requires discomfort, uncertainty, and even failure, and smart women embrace all of it. They don't wait to feel ready. They act, stretch, stumble, and rise stronger. Comfort is seductive. It tells you to stay where it's safe, where you won't be judged or challenged. But smart women recognize that comfort can become a cage. They refuse to settle for mediocrity just because it feels familiar. Instead, they chase the unknown because they're more loyal to their future self than their current fears. They intentionally put themselves in environments where they are the beginner, the student, the one who doesn't have all the answers. Why? Because they're not driven by ego, they're driven by evolution. Smart women love to learn. They read, ask questions, seek mentorship, and welcome feedback. They know that every stretch moment is a seed for future strength. Obstacles don't scare them. They see challenges as teachers. When things get hard, they don't quit, they ask, "What is this teaching me?" They understand that every setback is part of the process. Every hard conversation, every painful lesson, every uncomfortable change is making them wiser, sharper, and more resilient. Smart women don't allow fear to make decisions for them. They feel the fear and move anyway. They don't wait for the perfect time because they know the perfect time never comes. Growth to them is a daily decision, not a dramatic event. It's built in the little habits, the small risks, the intentional actions repeated over time. They also know that people may not understand their hunger for more. Not everyone is willing to grow, and that's okay. Smart women don't shrink to stay in relationships, jobs, or environments that limit their expansion. They're willing to outgrow people and places if it means staying aligned with their higher purpose. Above all, smart women are addicted to becoming better. Better emotionally, better spiritually, better mentally, better professionally. Not because they're not enough as they are, but because they honor their potential too much to remain the same. They are not here to stay still. They are here to evolve. Smart women don't make decisions based on impulse or emotions that fade. They move with intention. Every yes and every no comes from a place of alignment with their values, goals, and inner compass. They don't just ask, "How does this feel?" They ask, "Does this serve my purpose?" That difference is what gives their life direction and depth. They understand that every choice is a seed, and seeds grow into patterns. So they choose carefully, knowing that what they allow today becomes part of their future tomorrow. Smart women don't waste time on distractions disguised as opportunities. They evaluate everything: relationships, jobs, conversations, and thoughts. They are not afraid to walk away from what looks good if it doesn't feel right. That's because they're led by purpose, not pressure. Just because something works for others doesn't mean it's right for them. Smart women are courageous enough to say no to good things so they can say yes to the right things. They plan their moves but stay open to adjustment. Their decisions are rooted in clarity but not control. They understand that being intentional doesn't mean being rigid. It means being rooted in who you are, even when plans shift. This balance of discernment and flexibility is what gives them both power and peace. Smart women don't chase chaos. They don't make rushed decisions to fill voids or silence insecurities. They pause, reflect, pray, think. They give themselves space to make sure the decisions they make today won't become regrets tomorrow. They understand the weight of their choices, and they handle that responsibility with maturity. They build their lives on purpose, not on randomness. From the people they surround themselves with to the projects they take on, there is a why behind everything. They don't just live, they live on assignment. They don't get caught in busy work or empty goals. They measure success by impact and alignment, not just outcomes. At their core, smart women know that peace comes from purpose. When a decision aligns with who they are and where they're going, it brings calm even if it's hard. That's how they know it's right. Because they trust the voice of purpose over the noise of pressure. And that's what makes their lives so powerfully intentional. Smart women don't waste their energy on rivalry. They understand that true power isn't found in outshining others, it's found in uplifting others while shining in your own light. Competition is rooted in comparison, and comparison is a thief of both peace and purpose. That's why smart women choose a different path, collaboration or creation. When they see another woman winning, they don't feel threatened, they feel inspired. They know that someone else's success is not a reflection of their failure. It's a sign of what's possible. Instead of asking, "How do I beat her?" they ask, "How can we build together?" That mindset is what elevates them above petty rivalry and into true leadership. Smart women collaborate because they understand the power of unity. They know that legacy is never built alone. Whether it's in business, relationships, or creative spaces, they seek out partnerships that align with their values and vision. They believe in amplifying each other's voices, not silencing them. But if they can't find a seat at the table, they don't beg, they build their own. They create, they innovate, they launch ideas, start movements, design platforms, and bring visions to life. Creation is their superpower. While others are busy watching and copying, smart women are busy crafting what's never been done before. Their confidence allows them to move in their own lane. They don't need to look sideways to measure their worth. They stay focused on their own growth and goals, knowing that the only real competition is who they were yesterday. That internal drive produces results that comparison never could. This doesn't mean they're passive, it means they're strategic and self-assured. They don't waste time tearing others down to feel superior. Instead, they lift others up, knowing that the energy they give out will return to them multiplied. Empowered women empower women, and smart women live by that truth daily. Ultimately, smart women know that competition is a scarcity mindset. Collaboration and creation come from abundance. They don't believe there's only one spot at the top, they believe in building whole new mountains. And when they do, they don't climb alone. They bring others with them, creating communities, not hierarchies. Smart women don't change who they are just to be accepted. They understand that popularity is temporary, but principles last forever. When forced to choose between being liked and being true to their values, they'll choose truth every time. They're not interested in fitting in if it means compromising what they stand for. They aren't afraid to be the only one standing when everyone else is sitting. That's because their decisions are guided by morals, not trends. They don't move with the crowd, they move with conviction. Even if their voice shakes, even if their stance is unpopular, they stay rooted in what they believe is right. Being liked is easy when you agree with everyone. But smart women don't seek comfort in approval, they seek strength in integrity. They know that popularity can be bought with silence, flattery, or fake smiles, but respect is earned by staying consistent in character, especially when it's inconvenient. They're not impressed by surface-level attention or shallow admiration. They'd rather have a few people respect their truth than a crowd cheering for their mask. Smart women understand that real influence comes from being authentic, not from being agreeable. They are not afraid to speak up, even when it costs them the room. These women operate from a place of deep self-respect. They draw their line in the sand and refuse to cross it for the sake of fitting in. Whether it's in relationships, career decisions, or social settings, they don't participate in things that go against their core values. That boundary protects their peace and preserves their power. They also know that popularity is fleeting. Today's applause can turn into tomorrow's judgment. That's why they don't get too high on praise or too low on criticism. Their identity isn't built on how others feel about them. It's built on how they honor themselves behind closed doors. That's where their real strength lives. At their core, smart women choose the path of principle because they're playing the long game. They don't want temporary applause, they want lasting impact. And that kind of impact can only come from standing firm in what you believe, especially when it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's the right thing. Smart women understand that their worth is not tied to how hard they chase people, opportunities, or attention. They don't run after what is meant for them, they align with it. By focusing on becoming the best version of themselves, they naturally attract what aligns with their energy, vision, and values. Their presence does the calling, not their desperation. They don't beg for love, recognition, or validation. They carry themselves with quiet confidence, knowing that anything they have to beg for will never be stable. Instead, they pour into themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and let their growth do the talking. The right people, the right doors, the right moments find them because of who they are becoming, not because of what they're pursuing. Smart women understand the difference between pursuit and pressure. They're not passive, but they're not forceful either. They take initiative where it matters, but they never sacrifice their dignity to keep something that's already trying to leave. If something or someone needs to be chased, it's probably not in alignment. What's real doesn't run. They live in their feminine power, which means they know how to receive. They allow themselves to be seen, but not easily accessed. They create boundaries that protect their peace and attract only what respects those boundaries. Their magnetism is built on self-respect, not manipulation or performance. Smart women also understand that chasing creates imbalance. Whether in friendships, careers, or relationships, they recognize when they are overextending and they pull back. They know that anything forced will eventually fall apart. So they focus on nurturing what's mutual, reciprocal, and organic. They work on their mindset, habits, skills, and spirit, understanding that who you are determines what you draw in. They become the kind of person that the life they want would naturally gravitate toward. Their focus is never on chasing people, it's on chasing purpose. And with that purpose, the right people and paths follow. At the heart of it, smart women attract because they are whole, not hollow. They don't seek to fill a void, they show up already full. They don't try to convince others of their value, they embody it. And when you radiate that kind of energy, you don't need to chase anything. What's meant for you will recognize you. Smart women walk in rooms without shrinking. They don't downplay their intelligence, soften their strength, or dim their light to make others feel comfortable. They've worked hard to know who they are. They're not going to apologize for standing in that truth. They show up fully, boldly, and without needing permission to exist loudly. They've shed the old habit of people-pleasing and pretending. Smart women no longer wear masks to be liked. They embrace their flaws, their fire, and their finesse. They've made peace with being misunderstood because they know that being authentic is more powerful than being accepted by everyone. They don't fake it, they own it. These women have faced rejection, judgment, and criticism and still chose themselves. Why? Because they know self-abandonment is too high a price to pay for external comfort. They would rather be real and respected than agreeable and invisible. They've learned that who they are is not a problem to fix, it's a gift to embrace. They speak with clarity, they dress how they want, they pursue what sets their soul on fire. Whether they are soft-spoken or outspoken, creative or calculated, wild-hearted or deeply grounded, they honor every part of who they are. They don't wait for the world to approve of their wholeness. They approve of it themselves. Smart women no longer ask for seats at tables where their voice isn't valued. They build their own or walk away entirely. They've unlearned the need to shrink, to apologize for taking up space, or to water themselves down. Their presence is intentional, and their identity is no longer negotiable. Even in their imperfections, they find power. They're not pretending to be flawless, they're just not ashamed of the process. They've accepted that growth and grace can coexist. That boldness doesn't cancel out kindness. That being powerful doesn't mean being perfected, means being real, rooted, and unapologetically whole. At their core, smart women know that authenticity is their superpower. When they embrace their full identity, they give others permission to do the same. They lead not by imitation but by inspiration. And they make it clear in every step, every word, and every choice they are who they are, unfiltered and unafraid.